Walt Disney lied to us. What a cunt. It's time for another Disney Deconstruct.
Almost everyone who's grown up in the Western world has fond memories of Disney movies, but you know what? Those memories are lies, and I'm going to prove that by rewatching every Disney movie ever in release order and ripping them to shreds with my cynical, world-weary adult eyes. So let's go on with the shit-kicking of Disney's very first animated feature, Snow fucking White. We all know the basics of the story: the pretty waif, the evil queen, the huntsman and the midgets, the poisoned apple, the sleeping, and Prince Charming's kiss. Anyway, Disney, lovable anti-Semite that he was, sought to capitalize on the fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm and delude the population in 1937 with a barely existent story and a shitty fucking movie. The one redeeming feature about the film? The backgrounds. Probably the best thing about the movie, seeing as the animators were so obsessed with real human movements that they apparently decided to ignore real human faces. White herself looks like a doll that's been repeatedly bashed in the face and sanded over until her human features are eradicated and a mentally handicapped child with a crayon was let loose to define vague girl features as they saw fit. Getting onto the film, it starts with a storybook opening by itself, but it doesn't open by itself. No, instead Disney has the pages on wires and it looks like a mongoloid abortion survivor with a special brain and conjoined twin fingers as operating the strings. You've got to wonder how they can manage the complex procedures involved in cell animation and yet fail to turn a page. The animation finally begins and we join Snow White in the palace garden where she's singing a fucking song to a well, which seems to echo back sporadically, proving the screenwriters are adept at the basic understanding of sound waves as the writers of the core understood the composition of the earth, or how gravity works, or how to write characters, or plot. As her song about wanting to find love comes to a conclusion, she's accosted by a man who breaks into the palace. Do they not have guards or security, no dogs or dragons or gargoyles who stand around during the day? I don't know much about castles, but I know they get invaded a lot. Anyway, whatever security they have is off having a wank or having lunch or wanking over their lunch, because this guy just slips the fuck in and starts rubbing himself up against Snow White. She plays it coy at first, running and hiding, and then he's like, "Hey baby, I'm a prince!" And she's all,
"Oh, a prince, that's cool, I'm all about princes,"
and is in love with him instantly. This, 90 seconds into the movie, is where Snow White stops being a role model for little girls and begins her decline to massive whorish cuntitude. We're taken to the queen, who in retrospect isn't so bad apart from being a vain mental bitch. She's asking the mirror who the prettiest is in all the lands, and turns out it's usually her. The mirror says,
"Hell's no, bitch. Snow White was totally just hooking up with this guy. He was a borderline rapist, so she is slut numero uno for today."
The queen gets pissed, and rather than use the magic she employs later in the movie to dispatch with her whorish stepdaughter, she sends some dick to go and kill Snow White on her behalf. Off Snow goes into the forest, at no point questioning why the hell a huntsman, who's a professional murderer by trade, is accompanying her. He attacks her, but for whatever reason, he lets her go. Now at this point, Snow White could have easily just gone to her dad or the prince or pretty much anyone and say,
"Queen's a fucking bitch, yo. Kill that motherfucker for me."
And they would, but instead she runs and runs and runs until it's night and we learn that Ho White is afraid of her own fucking shadow. It's here that she meets her woodland friends, not the inverted commas on friends, because she treats them like they're the crusty dried semen she washes off herself every morning. I imagine this is why she consorts with a rapist rather than fighting and settling down with a nice boy. She's all,
"I'm going to move in with you bitches."
and the squirrels are like,
"Oh, sure, bitch. If you can fit into a tiny motherfucking hole in the motherfucking tree, then you're fucking welcome."
Snow is not amused by this and reacts accordingly.
"Well, go find me somewhere else to stay, you cock-shitting fuck-buckets,"
she seems to say. This is what brings her to the abode of the dwarves. The animals, trying to get rid of her, one imagines, attempt to leave her at the door, but on looking inside she has a bitch fit and shouts at them.
"Clean this spunk hole up, you cum-gargling ball bags,"
she decrees, and does a dance with a broom whilst they do all the hard work. But they're plotting vengeance, and after a long day of her whistling while they work, they encourage Snow to go to sleep. The dwarves are singing and mining. They take their many, many jewels, put them in a shed outside the mine, lock the door, and then hang up the key, next to the ball-gagging door. Seriously, what the fuck? Are the jewels worth anything? And if they're not, why are they mining? And if they are, why are they living in squalor? So the dwarves return to their house, the animals hear them come in, and hatch their ingenious plan to have Snow White bumped off. Despite being shit, the plan works anyway. The dwarves freak out, believing the bird tweetings are demon howls, and make their way upstairs to the bedroom with murder in mind. In this extended scene in which a literal murder plot is hatched, they get all the way to the bed, raise their axes, hammers, and picks over the head, and wail them down on the body under the covers, only stopping at the last second. Seriously, they came within an inch of horribly murdering an albeit slutty child, and this entire scene is played out like comic relief. Snow wakes up and the dwarves, having never fucked anything beardless and over 4 foot tall before, introduce themselves. Doc is the most suspicious of them all. The rest have adjectives as names and a personification of their monikers apart from him, and he has trouble forming sentences, let alone performing complex medical procedures. I won't be shocked to discover that in addition to not being a real doctor, in wide shots it'd be revealed to be a full-grown man walking on his knees. He seems far too anxious amongst the other dwarves. So our heroine convinces the dwarves to let her stay, with a vagina we assume. The queen meanwhile tracks her down, discovers that Snow White has outslutted her by having nightly bukkake parties with her 7 little friends and the entire animal population of the forest. She turns up dressed as a crone and gives her stepdaughter an apple that makes her pass out. An apple a day in this instant does not keep the doctor away. I get the impression that he's probably jacking off all over her every night. And apples are not good cum barriers. Now we come to the finale, and what distinguishes the latter third of Snow White from the entire plot of Sleeping Beauty escapes me. Lazy writing on the Grimm's part, if you ask me. I imagine the conversation went thusly.
What shall we do for our next story, Gunther?
I do not know, Heinrich. I am out of ideas. And also, we are out of toilet paper.
Why don't you sit on a glass table while I lie underneath it? And why don't we just rehash the plot of our previous story?
A fantastic idea, my brother. Let's make love to celebrate it.
That last part might have been a bit of Heath Ledger post-Brokeback pre-death slashfic. Sorry about that. Anyway, the rest is pretty much wrapped up in about 5 minutes. Pimp Charming, who let's not forget is a rapist, reappears and goes at Snow White in front of the dwarves who wank themselves off in the background. And then everyone lives happily ever after until they die months later because they've all had unprotected sex with Snow White and she has more diseases than Africa.
Uncle Walt lied to us. What a fucking cunt. Has proven by this Disney Deconstruct. He raped our minds and our childhoods. We've exposed his lies for the better good. That racist, rapist, kid and fiddling cocko may be dead, but that don't mean we can slap him upside the head. See you next time, folks.
Hello, and welcome to English for Dirty Foreigners, a 732,000 part series on how to teach dirty foreigners English.
The award-winning series is back. Introducing English for Dirty Foreigners Remix, featuring the best sketches, the best jokes.
Do I have to show you the photo of your last baby again?
The best foreigners. Going through everything from arrival procedure.
Please alert your local bobby to your arrival, and he will give you the traditional welcoming.
To words.
The plural of noun is noon.
Relationships.
Courting. Engagement. The marriage.
To procreation. English for Dirty Foreigners Remixed. Coming soon.